What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Nick with Leverage Media. Welcome to the live Q&A on the stimulus bill. We've been creating content the last 3 days, really, trying to help out as many people as possible, answer as many questions as we can. So hopefully you guys have watched some of the videos so you kind of understand the basics of it. If you don't, I would recommend going and watching some of that, maybe coming back with your individual situations, and we can talk, and I can give you what I think is my best advice. I don't know if I'm an expert by any means. There's some things that I haven't seen in the bill, so I don't know the answer to them. A lot of like some of the common questions that I've seen, but yeah, if you guys want to start typing in questions, I was trying to do this through Zoom, but Zoom is not cooperating, so I'm going to go to my Dr. Nick page and just type in any questions you have underneath this video. Let's see here. All right. Don't see any questions yet. So until I get some questions, I'll just kind of go over the basics of it for those of you that maybe haven't watched some of the videos. So the stimulus bill that we're talking, it's not really a stimulus bill, it's more of a rescue bill, is basically an 8-week cash infusion from the government to help you keep your staff intact and keep them on the payroll, keep them making the same amount that they are making, or they were making before this. So what they don't want is they don't want half the country on unemployment. So this is going to be, it's called the Paycheck Protection Program, and this is going to be able to basically the government is going to pay your payroll for the next 8 weeks. So we'll get into some of the questions, because I'm sure there's lots of questions on, well, what if they've done filed for unemployment, or they've already gotten it. We'll talk about that in a second. But basically what the program is going to be is you will have to verify with the SBA or your local bank what your average monthly payroll costs were in the prior 12 months. If you weren't in business for an entire year before this, then you would show your payroll costs from January 1st to February 15th. Once they've established what your monthly average payroll cost is, multiply that by 2.5. That's going to be the amount of loan, or that's going to be the loan amount that you are qualified for. And then as long as you use that money for the covered categories, which I've talked about pretty much in half the videos, if you cover, and it's basically payroll, rent, utilities, and interest on mortgages and on business loans. As long as you use it for that, at the end of the 8 weeks, you'll have to apply for forgiveness. And if you can show proof that you use that money for those covered categories, then you'll be able to get the forgiveness. If you don't hire back all of your employees, or you cut their payroll more than 75%, then your forgiveness percentage will come down. If you use it for non-covered categories, you won't get any forgiveness for that money spent on non-covered categories. So I see some questions coming in, and so I'm gonna get to those. If a lot of these basics are in videos that I did yesterday and the day before. I did like 15 yesterday, I did 4 the day before. So there's a ton of like basic content. I want to try to use this Q&A to like help people out for specific situations. So I'm going to go first to my girl, 𝗪𝗏, just because she's been on all my Facebook Lives. So we'll start with her. Sarah says, in order for the loan to be forgiven, you said you need to keep employees on payroll and same amount. What if I have some part-time employees that only come in 1 to 2 days per week? Do I keep them on for their average number of weekly hours, or only full-time employees figured into this? So there are 2 ways that they're going to determine what your forgiveness percentage is. It's going to be your head count, I believe, of only full-time employees. So you need to have the same full-time employees that you had in the same time. So the time period that this covers, where you can use this money for, is February 15th of this year to June 30th of this year. The way that they're going to calculate the full-time employees is how many full-time employees did you have in 2019 for that same time period, and then how many full-time employees do you have for that time period this year. So I don't know that like part-time employees like that will matter. What will matter though is the level of payroll. So To be completely safe, I would bring everybody back. I would make sure that 100% of your employees are 100% paid. That will like eliminate any confusion. Like I said on the 75%, you can take payroll down from where you were before this, down 75%, which for those part-time people, you probably would be able to eliminate not pay them and be at that still be above that 75 percentile. If you drop to like say 65% of your payroll, your loan forgiveness will be cut by the 10% beyond the 75% that you went. So I hope that answers everything there for you, Sarah. Your best bet is though to keep 100% of your employees at the normal payroll, and you'll be good. All right, Nicole, I'm going to skip you just because my friend Mikey from, well, you probably go by Michael now, but in chiropractic school he was Mikey. So I'm going to skip you. I'll come right back to you, Nicole. So 12 months record of payroll needed. So like 2/15/19 to 2/15/20. I think it's going to be 12 months from the day you apply back. But they'll know, like right now, like a lot of the details like that, I don't think are figured out. But I believe it's going to be 12 months of payroll needed. I want to give you the things that will be included, because it's not just payroll. It's going to be any type of employment benefits that you've paid. So really any type of benefits or pay that you have paid to people out of your, like that you could have a check for, that's going to be included. So that includes health insurance premiums, retirement accounts, actual wages, severance packages. If you paid, like if somebody quit and they had some built up personal time and you wrote them a check for that. So really just anything that you are, that you're paying people for, whether it's benefits or money. All right. Hold on one second. Let me go back to, shoot, I shouldn't have skipped. I see all of them. Whoever I just skipped, can you repeat your question? Because for some reason you know what, maybe I can scroll here. Hold on a second. Shit. I never had this. Oh, here we go. I got it now. Oh, you know what? I missed a couple people in the beginning. Nicole Shimke, do corporate distributions count as wages? This is one of the things that I'm not sure on. The thing that I'm sure on is if you're a W-2 employee, like you as the business owner, if you get payroll, like I pay myself $500 a week out of my office. So that $500 will absolutely count towards the payroll calculations. I don't know if corporate distributions will or not. So I have a feeling that, because I couldn't find anywhere where it says anything about like tax returns or K-1 forms or anything that an owner would be able to bring in to show their income. But I would guess that the spirit of the law is that they want to keep everybody employed, including the owner, so that they can pay their bills. So the government is basically saying, here's money to keep your life and your business going for 2 months. We'll figure it out after that. So I would guess that K-1 forms, 1040 personal tax returns for the business owner may qualify. I just don't know that for a fact. So I would get all that stuff together, get your K-1 forms for 2019, get your tax returns together and we'll talk about this documentation probably here in a little bit if somebody asks a question about it. But get that stuff together. Anything that you could prove, this is how much I actually paid myself, that I told the government about. Like I told you guys, this is how much I got. That should prove it to where hopefully that will calculate in. Now, anything you paid yourself over $100,000 will not be calculated in. The cap is $100,000 per employee. All right, Crystal Brown, I'm a 1099 with no employees for my own practice as well as another practice. For my own practice as well as, okay. Do I qualify and which documents do I need to show to apply? So we'll just talk about but yes, as a 1099, you do employ, like they're even covering like Uber drivers, like anybody that's a contractor, gig worker, bartenders, waiters, CAs, like all of that is going to be covered. So you as a 1099 would absolutely be covered. And I think from both, you would just bring both of them in because that's, what your actual pay is. So the documents that I recommend, I think the only thing that you're going to actually have to do is you're going to have to prove you were in business before 2/15 of this year, and you're going to have to prove that you were either paying yourself and or other people before 2/15. So those are the only requirements that are in the bill. That doesn't mean that there won't be requirements from your local bank, just because a lot of them I think they're going to act like this is a normal SBA loan, and they're going to be worried about not having the right documentation. Because normally with an SBA loan, they have to. It's so rigorous. I paid $5,000 to have to get somebody to shepherd me through the SBA application process for my building. So it's normally a very strenuous, difficult thing to do. This is not that. They are just basically saying if you think you need it, you're going to get approved. So you're going to have to show that you were in business and that you were paying yourself or others before February 15th. But what I'm recommending is the money at the earliest won't be ready until next week. So what I would recommend is getting all of the documentation together that you would for a normal SBA loan. So here's what that is. 2017, 2018, 2019 personal and business tax returns. If you haven't done your 2019 taxes, your profit and loss statement, so your QuickBooks numbers for 2019, your year-to-date numbers from QuickBooks for 2020, and a personal financial statement. You can just Google one. It says it's the PFS. And then your accounts receivables aging report. So a month ago, I contacted my bank, kind of seeing the writing on the wall, and wanted to open back up my line of credit. So I asked him what all we needed. That's what he told me we would have needed to get it done. So I think that what you're going to do is get all that stuff together now, and then also get all your payroll information. All those things that I said earlier, and if you didn't catch that, there's a video on what all is covered on the payroll costs. Because you want that payroll, that average monthly payroll cost to be as high as possible so that you can qualify for as much as possible. So whatever they're going to give you a number, whatever that number is for your monthly average payroll cost, they're going to multiply that by 2.5, and that's what you qualify for. What you spend it for after that is up to you, but you want to get qualified for as much as possible. Let's see. So all of the stuff I just said, plus anything that would prove your payroll costs. All right, 𝗪𝗂𝗂𝗀𝗋, have you done any more research on the process? If we already applied for an SBA loan, are we able to apply for the PPP, and what do we need to do? So I did look into it a little bit more. What I can understand is that if you have already been approved for a disaster loan, that they are going to somehow refinance either part of that, or they'll use your disaster loan funds, I believe, to fund this for whatever the amount you what's the word I'm looking for, that you qualify for. So let's say you qualify for $50,000 through the Paycheck Protection Program. I think what they're going to do is if they said, I'm going to give you $100,000 with the disaster loan, I think the $50,000 would be refinanced out of that. But that's when I've been on calls constantly, so I haven't had as much time to read through it for that specific situation. But I'm going to write that down because a lot of people have been asking that. So hold on one second. Let's see. Already applied for disaster loan. Still qualify PPP. All right. And Michelle, just message me, do a private message just so I get that question, so I don't forget to get back to you on the answer. All right. Sarah, we already did yours. Let's see. Oh, Nicole. Sorry about skipping you, Nicole. All right. I own a practice, but I'm still very new and don't have any staff. I also haven't started to pay myself yet. Just wondering what options I may have. I do still have business expenses such as rent, business loan, business credit card, and utilities. All right, if you're new, okay, so you don't have any staff and you haven't started to pay yourself. What options I may have? That I don't know. Did you, God, this is why Facebook Live sucks. If you, type in whether you, let me see if I can see what's coming in actively. All right. Okay, here we go. Nicole, type in right now if you're still on, if you filed a 2019 tax return. But while she's doing that, maybe she's not on anymore, but while she's doing that, the people that are in this situation, first of all, if you haven't been open a year, you'll basically use. Yes, I did. Okay, so here's what I'm hoping happens: is that K1 forms and and personal tax returns or business tax returns will be able to be usable. I just don't know. Like, I know that 1099s and W-2 and like things that are straight through payroll will definitely count. I just think that they're really trying to help people out with this, including like people like you in your situation, because they don't want more people on unemployment. So I think that they're going to be a little bit more loosey-goosey with this, and I'm hoping that K1s or tax returns will count. I just don't have a great answer for you. Rent, business loan. The business credit card wouldn't apply, the utilities would, the rent would, the interest on the business loan would. So you're in a situation where if you did, like let's say you paid yourself, let's say your 2019 tax returns were, $60,000 and you were open for 12 months, which it doesn't sound like you were, but let's say you were, then maybe they would say your average payroll costs are $5,000, multiply that by 2.5, then you'd have $12,500 to spend on yourself or on those other things. So I think that would be kind of our best case scenario for you. All right, Todd Sullivan, the Paycheck Protection Program seems like a no-brainer, but how much should I apply for the SBA disaster loan? I have 2 months of operating expenses in the bank. Our operating expenses are $25,000 per month. I think that I talked about this a little bit earlier, and I've got a thing to check on this. I'm almost positive that the disaster, so there's the disaster loan program is the EIDL. They had money in this bill to help pay for the EIDL program to further fund it. Then there's the Paycheck Protection Program. So they're two separate things. Someone yesterday, I was like 100% sure that you could do both, right? Yesterday, somebody said, oh, if you do one, you can't do the other. I don't think they're correct. I think they're misreading something in the bill, which I do remember reading. What they said was if you apply for the EIDL, they knew that you needed to get cash fast. So, this part, I've spent so much time on the Paycheck Protection Program that some of this other stuff, I'm a little bit, I'm like 78% sure instead of 98% sure. So on this, the way I think I remember it is if you applied for the disaster loan, they would give you a $10,000 advance while they decided whether they're going to give it to you or not. If they decided not to give it to you, you get to keep the $10,000. Like it basically turns into a grant. If they give it to you, the $10,000 is just part of the money. Like they would just give you $10,000. They would give you the money minus the $10,000 they already gave you, and then you would pay it back at the 3 3/4% for up to 30 years. What I think I remember reading is that if you get the $10,000, basically if you get the free money over here, you can't like double dip. Like you could still get I think you could still get the Paycheck Protection Program money, but it would just be minus the $10,000 they already gave you, if that makes sense. I definitely don't, the purpose of this Paycheck Protection Program is not really for you to cover your expenses. It's to keep people on your payroll. That's the like underlying spirit of the bill. So I don't think that they're going to keep you from being able to do the disaster loan to make sure that you keep paying for the operating expenses. But I think the banks will know more next week because it just passed yesterday. So I think they'll get more direction next week. So these more specific questions, me telling you an answer right now, I'm probably right, but it doesn't really matter if I'm right or if I'm wrong because they'll just for sure tell you the answer in a couple of days. So right now, the things that you can do, that you can control, kind of like we're talking to our patients, like the thing that you can control is like the health of your body. The thing that you can control right now is getting an appointment on Friday with your banker, getting that set, whether it's phone call or in person, and getting your documentation that I just went through that I've made some videos about as well. So get your documentation together, get the appointment, and then tell your banker as soon as you know what your bank's application process is going to be. Let me know so I can make sure that I've got everything together. All right. Michelle again, our Cairo office is technically only open 21 hours a week. Does this affect anything? No, that won't. Deb Martin, hi. Blast from the past. Does it affect you if one of your part-time employees has quit in the last 12 months? I don't think it'll really like affect you like it'll just like that. Like if they, let's say they quit 6 months ago, like whatever you paid them is going to go into your payroll cost, especially I think they're using full-time employee headcount as the way to determine if you have the same amount of staff now as you did last year at the same time. And even that I think may not be right. I think that may be for like seasonal workers where they want to compare how many full-time employees you had from 2/15 to 6/30 of 2019 versus 2/15 to 6/30 of 2020. I saw that written somewhere that's going to be how they determine the full-time head count. But like I was just talking to somebody yesterday that had twice as many employees now as they did last year. So I think that if you are like a chiropractic office that doesn't have seasonal like ups and downs, that they're going to see how many employees you had before the 2/15, like basically the start of this year to the 2/15. And then as long as you keep those full-time employees, I think you're going to be okay. So no, I don't, and I also don't think part-time employees, whether they're on the payroll or not, is going to count towards your head count. Stacy 𝗫𝗫𝗀𝘀, does that include my payroll being the owner operator? Yes, as long as you're like paying yourself. We talked about that earlier, but as long as you're paying yourself through your payroll, then yeah. Annie Armstrong, for those of us who are taking shareholder draw as a majority of our income, how will that work? I talked about that earlier. I think that they're going to try to help people out. I think that they're going to, hopefully they'll accept K-1 forms because that's showing like, okay, you own 100% of the business. Here was 100% of the profit. This is what flowed through to your personal tax return. So I'm hoping that those K-1 forms or those personal tax returns will be usable, but don't quote me on that. Hello, Natalie. I have 2 part-time employees. One went to Mexico and had to self-quarantine after returning. Then we closed. She is pregnant and does not want to return when we reopen. Our other part-time employee was planning to leave for a new job as of April 13th after the spring break before cancel. What do you recommend? Okay, you have you, and then you have 2 part-time employees. One went to Mexico. She's been self-quarantined. Now she doesn't want to come back. Our other part-time employee was planning to leave for a new job. I assume the other part-time employee is gonna stay. Can you tell me that, Lynn Sowers? Let's see. All right. What I just said is I think that they're gonna base the head counts off of the full-time employees, not part-time employees, but your payroll costs will be calculated using those part-time employees' pay. So they'll take your last 12 months, they'll find out your average monthly. So my thing is just to stay 100% for sure that you're gonna get the forgiveness, is if you use those 2 part-time employees to qualify for X amount of money, then I would use that money that they're about to give you to continue paying them the same way that you were paying them before. Because remember, the spirit of the law is that they want to keep people on your payroll making the same as they did before. If you start to try to figure out ways around this, that's where I think people might get stuck if they don't do it the right way, and they won't be able to get that money forgiven the same way that they would. So you're not only are they going to be calculating off of the head counts, but they're also going to be looking at like, if you didn't use that money for payroll that they gave you, and you had, let's say you had $5,000 in payroll in January and you paid that, if you then don't spend $5,000 on your employees with this money, then they may not qualify you for the forgiveness. The way that you get forgiveness is you use it on your payroll, and then whatever's left. The reason why they give you 2.5 times your your monthly payroll costs is that they're only doing this for 8 weeks. So they know that only like 1.9 times is going to actually go towards payroll. because it's 8 weeks, right? So it's a little bit less than 2 months. So 1.9 of the 2.5 is going to go to paying you and your staff. The other 0.6, that's why they've got the rent, the utilities, and the interest. If all they wanted you to do was pay payroll, they would just give you 2x your annual or your monthly payroll costs. So I hope that you may not be on anymore. So I hope that answers that. 𝗵𝗫𝗁𝗃𝗀𝗀𝗀. Should we be reaching out to who we bank with or an SBA provider? I would first reach out to your local bank, because the way that they're trying to distribute this is they're trying to leverage all the FDIC institutions to not overwhelm the SBA, because I mean there's going to be a lot of people looking for this money. Hopefully chiropractors will be at the front of the line with this content that we're creating. But reach out to your bank first. I'd reach out to them Monday morning. They still might not know anything. I think they'll know the rules by midweek, but reach out Monday morning to do those things I told you, which is set up an appointment on Friday, get the make sure that they tell you what their application process is, and they might know by then if they're going to be able to disperse this money or not. If not, try to find, if you search for, so I think there's like 1,800 SBA approved lenders out there, which is probably the majority, like it's all the big banks, and it's probably the majority of the bigger like local banks in your area. But just search for a list of SBA approved lenders, and you'll probably be for sure safe with those people. But I would start with where you do your business, checking, and if you have any loans, because you'll have a relationship with the banker possibly, and you will they'll be able to get the money into your checking account probably quicker than if you did it at a bank that you don't have a relationship with. And you'll probably get like preference over somebody that doesn't have the relationship in terms of like getting it scheduled. And any female or minority owned businesses and any economically distressed owner status, like whatever they qualify that as, those people are supposed to be getting priority in terms of the money. So just make sure you remind them of that. Robert Tieperman, my net paycheck to me is $8K a month, $4K per paycheck. Gross is over $100K per year. Am I out of luck with my personal pay with this bill and won't be figured? No, up to $100,000. So like your net. Right, yeah. So I think they're going to calculate it off the gross, if I'm correct in this. So you'll be able to calculate your 100K. Actually, it won't count the federal distribution. So like the federal taxes that are in the payroll won't count towards the payroll costs. So that might help you out personally because that money won't count towards the payroll costs. So your gross in this situation might be a little bit less, like maybe it's 90. Well, anyway, you're going to basically get to qualify for up to $100,000, and then you'll be able to use up to a monthly prorated amount, which is $83.33. You'll be able to use that amount to yourself in these 8 weeks. All right, Jody Osborne, 𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗀, did he answer this because I'm in a similar situation? I could use the help with rent. I'm just going to go back and I think I remember what she said. Let's see here. Nicole, still very new, don't have staff. Okay, yeah, so let me find, what was your name? Jody. Jody Osborne. I said earlier that that I think they will, if they're doing this the right way, they would count K1 and personal tax returns for people like you and Nicole that don't have any staff and you pay yourself out of your business. So again, like the spirit of the law is for them to help as many people as possible be able to stay on a payroll, even if it's just you, so that they can keep you, paying all the other things that you pay. Because there's like a trickle down effect. If like we don't have any money, then the vendors that we supply don't have any money. So they're trying to like keep this stuff going and hoping that it'll be a short-term thing. Hello, Jamie. If you guys are thinking about doing any type of virtual, either functional medicine, Jamie West is a client of mine, and we did if you guys ever listen to Path to a Million podcast, that's my daily podcast. We did an interview on how to set yourself up to go virtual, like all the how-tos. I think that was maybe late last week. And then after that call, we were kind of talking. I was like, hey, you might want to come up with a program that people can implement right now for their people that maybe aren't coming in, or if you had to shut down. So she and her partner came up with an immune program, a 90-day immune program that you can sell to your patients, and they teach you how to do that. So like I told her, I was like, you need to come up with something that even dummies like me could implement. So if you're looking for another revenue source that can be done virtually, that you don't have to like learn 12 months worth of stuff, be sure to check out that podcast. I think that was earlier this week, maybe on Tuesday. So it's Path to a Million podcast. It's on any of the podcast stations. So a little shout out to Jamie. All right. Tom Strenkowski. With all the bank lobbies now being closed in Pennsylvania, will the participating banks be doing the applications over their websites? I don't know if the applications will be over their websites, because I can't imagine that SBA is going to like mandate that every bank in America comes up with now like IT support. And so I would guess, and again, this is just me guessing, they'll know more next week, but I would guess that you're going to have to apply through the SBA. You're going to say which bank you want to go to. You're going to meet with your banker either over the phone, maybe Zoom, or maybe the commercial bankers will come in for this, and they'll just have to be 6 feet away. So that's why I want you guys to call on Monday to get that appointment on Friday set up now, and have them, maybe they'll know Monday, like maybe over the weekend they're working on this stuff and they'll know by Monday, but I doubt it. I would guess it's maybe going to be Wednesday. Jamie, ours is doing an e-sign or drive-through pickup. Okay, so that's for the question that I just answered. Tom, is the application completed through the SBA or directly through the bank? The bank is going to be the originator of the loan. The SBA is guaranteeing it. So the way that the bank is incentivized to help you guys is they get 5% of any of the loan, like up to $350,000. After that, it's I think 3.5% or maybe 3%. But for all of us, it's going to be 5% of the loan amount. So that's how they're going to make money on it. So they're going to be incentivized to like get these things going, right? So the faster they can get you through, the more of that they can make, because I'm sure that they're hurting for income as well. My boy Tabor Smith, anybody not doing spinal hygiene right now needs to be doing spinal hygiene. Flora Hyacinth, I've already told my staff to file for unemployment. Should I ask them to stop the process? Yes. So I would have them stop, and I would have them come back on, because again, you're going to need that head count. You're going to need that payroll number. Be sure that you're going to want them to come back on. So that's why you got to be fast with this, because you don't want them to go without pay. So I don't know, like I just had payroll yesterday, which was for the week before and the week before that. So we were still open then. Last week we had to close on Monday. So this next payroll, I'm going to need to have this money in place, and you can retroactively pay yourself back for any payroll that you've done back to February 15th, and any of these covered. So that's another thing that I failed to mention. You're welcome, Tabor. You're welcome, Michelle. Nick is a beast. I like that. My boy Paul in the suburbs of Chicago. My man Todd Walter and his beautiful wife Sonia are here. Nicole Carr, yes I did, we talked about that. Megan Reed, will this be forgiven, not just a loan that needs to be prepaid? So this program, like I said, go watch those kind of like fundamental videos that I did, but yes, it'll be forgiven as long as you use the money towards covered categories inside of 8 weeks of getting it. So that's payroll costs, interest on mortgages, interest on business loans, rent and utilities, and healthcare costs. Thank you, Garden, for helping me out on that. Tom, will the application process be live this upcoming week? I would imagine it will, but you'll just have to talk to your bank. Tabor, how much should we borrow? I mean, would you recommend we borrow over the amount of our payroll and rent, and then just pay back the leftover at a lower interest rate? So this program specifically, the disaster loan, you can decide how much you need to borrow. That's like a real loan. That's going to be that, but that's an amazing, like, if you need to get a loan, go through the EIDL. It's like Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. That's the SBA loan program. Like if a tornado sweeps through a city, that's the program that they always have had in place for disasters. Once they declared a national disaster, that allowed and the states declared disasters, that allowed that money to be freed up. The problem is that's built for, one place having a disaster at a time, or like a region, not the entire country. So they have a bunch more money put into the disaster loan program in the CARES Act, the thing that we're talking about, the bill we're talking about. Part of the CARES Act is the Paycheck Protection Program. That's the forgiven part. So if you have to get money for these non-covered services like your operating expenses, do it through the disaster loan program. This is just basically for those covered categories. So you're only going to be able to borrow the amount that they calculate, which is your monthly average payroll cost times 2.5. Borrow as much as you can, but you need to, because if you use it for these covered categories, it's free money. And another thing is it doesn't count towards your income for 2020. So like you won't have to pay taxes on it. It's the only tax-free gift you're ever going to get. So get it. You want to qualify for as much money as possible. That's why you want to get all of those payroll costs that you could potentially, like, even if they say, no, that doesn't count, bring it anyway. Like anything that you have paid to people for benefits, or for that you've actually paid money that you could prove for wages, time off, benefits, whether that's health or retirement, anything you could, because the higher your monthly payroll costs are in this calculation, the more you can borrow. Then you'll have, even if you borrow more than what your payroll really is right now, if you can qualify for it, you want to get it, and then you just want to use it for those covered categories. All right, 𝗃𝗵𝗁𝘂𝗵𝗃. I don't know which one is the maiden name and which one's the married name. I think the married name's the second one, so I might just start doing that. But all right, I have a gym separate from my office that was a mandatory closure, no payroll or 1099s, but has rent and utilities. Just paid insurance for the year. We just take carryover as draws. Okay, how do we get money for that business since it's 100% loss until allowed to reopen? So real quick, before I answer this question, one thing you need to know is it is not dependent on whether you're at 100%. Like I talked to one of my clients the other day that was hit last week was busier than like his normal weeks. So it doesn't matter if you're crushing it or if you're at zero. You still will qualify. You basically just have to make a good faith, determination that this money is necessary for you to keep people on payroll and keep going. So that doesn't really matter. You won't qualify more than someone else because of not having any income coming in. But let's see. Katie, can you tell me if it's a separate entity, and if you get a K1, or if you have tell me how you show that you made money on that. What's up, Rob Vasquez? I'm just going to answer this real quick. So does it include distributions? I've talked about that I think that I'm hoping that they will allow K1s and tax returns. But remember, you can only qualify for up to $100,000 per year, which prorated would be about $16,000 for the 8 weeks. All right, Katie, you're not answering me, but all right. So I'm just going to assume that you have a separate entity. That the gym, let's call it ABC Gym, is a corporation, and you guys just take whatever's left over as draws. At the end of the year, in your business taxes for ABC Gym, you would get a K1 form, and then that would be what you would show on your personal income statement. I'm hoping that the K1 forms count, but as I've said before, I don't know if they will. I don't know if you could use the money, if let's say you have ABC Chiropractic over here. I don't know if you could use any leftover money to help pay rent and utilities for the gym, but I would really be reaching out, just paid insurance for the year. I would really be reaching out to whoever your landlord is. Most landlords that aren't terrible people, I think would give some grace on this, and maybe you could work something out. Maybe they're a reduced rent, or maybe they could give you, a couple months. And that another thing is you might want to contact your state. A lot of states have passed rules on this specifically, maybe not for commercial, but for private like mortgages, like they've you know, you can't evict anybody right now. You can't foreclose on anybody in certain states. In other ones, maybe you can. But I would guess either the Small Business Development Center for your state or the Attorney General office for your state to see if there's anything that would protect you from having to pay rent right now. And utilities, if you reach out to your utility company because they're government owned, I'm almost positive that they would. One of my other LLCs is the landlord, which has a mortgage. I would. What did I just say? Oh, I would reach out to the utility company because I would guess that they would give you some grace on that as well. One of my other LLCs is the landlord. So like you own the building, I would guess, and then you rent it. Like 𝗵𝘁𝗁 Gym rents from 𝗵𝘁𝗁 Landlord LLC. That I don't know. Like that whenever you get like kind of convoluted with that, I think that you probably would be. But if you own it, if you're the landlord and you own it, you know, the interest on the building should be able to be paid. But man, I don't know. That one's a little bit tricky. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. That one I would talk to an accountant or the banker specifically. But if you don't pay yourself any income out of that LLC that owns it, I think you won't be able to do anything there. But I still think that so if rent not paid, then the landlord goes to a loss. Yeah, again, I don't that part we're getting a little bit into the weeds. So I apologize if I can't give you any like real specific answer. Because remember, I'm just a chiropractor who read a bill one time. So. What about 1099s? Yes, you would qualify. Hi, Cindy. Sarah Ness, hello. Nicole Carr, should I look at EIDL instead? No, I try this first because this is going to be your best. This is going to be your best bet. Like this is not going to be, again, like hopefully the K1s qualify and you'll be able to, you know, get money. So try this first. The EIDL will always be there. I don't think that like 7 days, especially if it's just you, I don't know if 7 days is going to like make or break the situation. So I would definitely do the paycheck protection first. If I was to process payroll for myself and employees today, we'll be able to claim that as part. Yeah, you can retroactively go back to February 15th. The thing that I'll say, if you go back let's take your example. So yesterday you processed payroll. So yesterday was the 27th, I think, of March. Yeah, I think that if you use the money to pay for the payroll on the 27th, that the 8-week clock would start on the 27th. So just be aware of that. If you use the money going forward, once you get it, like once it originates, let's say it's April 1st, you would have it for the next 8 weeks, which would basically be till the end of May. But if you retroactively pay for something, I think it's going to start the clock when you do that. Mark Farthing, my boy, Philly Proud, Michael Rixey. If they are worried about getting sick and don't want to come back, can they work from home and be approved? Yes, even if they just like sit at home and do nothing. It's still in your best interest to like just let them do whatever they're going to do. Like you just want them on the payroll. Like you want to pay them with the government's money. I mean, I would try to get them to be as productive as possible, but it's more important for like your purposes right now. It's important for you to have the head count that you had before this and the payroll that you had before this. Is it first come, first serve? Yes. That's why Tiffany Schreiber is a first come, first serve. It absolutely is first come, first serve. This is why I've seen some blogs where they're trying to say, well, if somebody is filed for unemployment, you can wait until you open and then bring them back and then apply for it then. And if you do it before June 30th, blah, blah, blah. The problem is like, I have no idea how much the private payroll of companies under 500 employees is every month. So there's $349 billion. And if that money runs out, I would assume that the government's going to just approve more money. But what if they're like, that's throwing good money after bad. Let's not do that anymore. So I would not try to get cute with this. I would get on it. That's why I say get your appointment on Friday with your banker and don't screw around. This is free money, guys. So if you have any ideas about how personal credit would factor into eligibility for 𝗫𝗫𝗄, I think it does. I talked to somebody the other day that got denied for it. I don't know how much. I don't think it does as much as it used to, but I still think that it possibly will. This program, it does not. But for the 𝗫𝗫𝗄, I think it may. But I think this bill, so that guy probably, when he talked about getting denied, he may have been applying weeks ago where the old rules were still in place. I think this bill severely relaxed those rules. So regardless, I would apply for whatever you need to apply for. Start with this, then do the disaster relief one. Devin Luzad, late, can you go over prep for application again? If you could just watch the video, no, never mind, I'll do it right now. 2017, 2018, 2019 personal and corporate taxes. If you don't have 2019 done, your P&L statement from your QuickBooks for 2019, your year-to-date numbers for 2020 from your QuickBooks, your personal financial statement and your accounts receivables aging report, and then all of your payroll costs. The things that I think will matter are the payroll costs. That includes things you've paid to them, health insurance premiums, retirement contributions, severance packages, anything that you have paid in terms of like if somebody left with sick leave or like a time off that they didn't use and you paid them, that would count. Basically any dollars that you can show that you paid towards you or your employees' benefits or their pay. Now, for those of you that run your retirement stuff through your account, that may count. It could, I don't know. But I still think that it'll go, actually it might not. It might be that you only get $100,000 per year per employee, and then benefits may be on top of that. But these are the kinds of like real small details that they'll probably just have to figure out. But you want to bring in everything you can to try to get, because when you bring in all your stuff, all your payroll stuff documentation, it may just be like your local banker. Like my local banker may be deciding on the fact that of what I should be getting or what works or what doesn't. And like I've known him since 1996, so like he's going to be very generous with me, I would imagine. Now maybe there's a very strict rules in place on SBA, but this is happening so fast that I just think that it's going to be a little bit more Wild West than the SBA is used to. So I would get in there with anything that you could document that you have paid, including your own stuff, like your health insurance premiums if you did it through the business, your retirement stuff. Flora Hyacinth, I have already asked my staff to file for unemployment. How does that affect me? Should I have them stop the process? I think I said this before, but yes, you want to have them stop. You want to bring them back onto the payroll. And like I said, you can go retroactive with this money. Dina Riggins, can we get this money without employees? Yes, it would just be like whatever it is that you make, whether it's through your W-2, 1099, and what we've talked about previous, that hopefully K-1 forms or personal tax returns will help. But yes, like even like Uber drivers are going to be able to get this. Heather, I have 4 different companies. Oh, here we go. I have 4 different companies. Katie's got a lot of stuff going on. 1 professional corporation and 3 LLCs. Will I be able to get loans for each company even though I own them all? Only 1 has payroll, 1 has 1099, and the 2 other are owner draws. I think you can. I think I would at least try. Like I have 2 businesses. I have my office and I have Leverage. Well, I have more than that, but I have my main 2 businesses are Leverage and or Leverage Media and my office. So they're both different companies. Like that's the whole point of having like different entities. So you could you'll just have to show that this is how much you made. Now I don't know if they'll say, well, only if you are the common denominator across all these corporations, maybe you personally only qualify for $100,000 for yourself. Because remember, this is where I think people you don't want to get caught with like your pants down at the end where they're just like, because you're gonna have to apply for forgiveness. So when you apply for forgiveness and you show that you made $400,000 across these 4 companies and you took all that money, they may just be like, we're only gonna allow you, not for it would be like 16,000 through each one of these companies for the 2 months. They may say, oh, we're only gonna forgive one of those 16,000, now you've got a loan. I mean, you gave yourself the money, so you just pay it back with that money. But I would stick within the spirit of the law, which is take care of yourself as like up to $100,000 a year prorated over 8 weeks. Take care of your employees. Then use the rest to try to figure out how to solve the other stuff. My bank sent. Here we go. Let's see. My bank sent me an email. They want business tax form 941, payroll, past 12 months, payroll, and personal profit loss statement. See, this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about, that they want to see a personal profit loss statement, which in the bill there is no, it specifically says like your ability to repay this does not matter at all. So the 941 payroll, which is like the form you give to the federal government on what you paid in payroll, business tax form, yeah. So that makes sense. But I also, again, you want to bring in all the other stuff too. You want to bring in the retirement stuff, the health insurance. So, but that profit loss statement, this is my point, is like that in particular bank for Joseph Altier, they want that. Your bank might want something else. And again, the banks are going to be the ones that are deciding. So like if you show up and you're like, well, Nick on Facebook told me that I only needed my payroll cost information, they're going to be like, well, I don't know who Nick is, but I'm the one deciding whether you get this loan or not. So don't waste days trying to be right about the letter of the law. Just like bring the stuff that they ask for. If you bring all those things that I told you about, including your payroll information and all those payroll cost things, you're going to be good. What if you don't use the money for payroll but use it for rent and utility? Again, Katie, like your situation is complicated. So I would talk to a professional about that. But two of the covered categories are rent and utilities. I just don't know like how exactly. You may have to use it through the correct LLC or whatever. So Annie Armstrong. So if I have put people on partial employment, I should bring them all back next week. Is that correct? That's what I would do. Like you can make that decision because you can wait until, I think that you can basically apply all the way up to June 30th. So you could have people be on unemployment now. You could wait until maybe you thought you were closer to opening back up. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you leave everybody on unemployment, okay? Then so this is almost the start of April. And you're like, all right, I think we'll be back in business June 1st. I'm going to leave them on unemployment until June 1st. And then I'm going to rehire them and I'm going to apply for this June 1st. Because I think that as long as you apply for this before June 30th, that you will have 8 weeks to use the money, even if that 8 weeks extends beyond June 30th. I'm not 100% sure if you have to use the money by June 30th or not. That I haven't like looked into that. I'm actually going to write that one down to look into. All right. So, do you have to use the money by 6:30? All right. So let's say that you were like, all right, I'm going to wait. Let's say that you can use it past June 30th. All right. You wait until June 1st to get to apply for the loan, and then you hire everybody back. The problem that I see with that is that the money potentially could be out. Like I doubt it, but I'm sure they picked this number because it would be able to like handle the amount of people that need it over the period of time. But you know the way that this is stated is a small business is counted as under 500 employees per location. So like these massive restaurant chains that have hundreds, if not thousands of restaurants around the country could potentially be small businesses. So they're going to get a lot of money, right? So you want to be sure. I would bring them back right now. I would pay for the 8 weeks and I would hope that things are figured out. Because what I think will happen is at the end of those 8 weeks, if people still can't go back to work, they're going to have to like replenish. They're going to have to put more money in, and they're going to have to let people like me that took it now because my office is closed, they're going to have to let me do 8 more weeks. The unemployment will always be there. In this bill, they also added $600 per week from the federal government onto whatever the state already pays for unemployment. The thing that I am worried about is that I'm pretty sure that, let's say somebody makes 16 bucks an hour, okay? If they make 16 bucks an hour, there may be a state in which they make more money by being on unemployment doing nothing than working for you and making 100%. So if you let them go do that and they get kind of used to that, maybe they don't come back when you want them to. I don't know. So what I want to do is I want to love on my team. I want to pour into them. I want to let them know that I haven't laid anybody off, even before I knew that this was going to be finalized, because I want them to understand that I care about them. I want to take care of them, and I want to get through this together. If you shuffle them off to unemployment when you have this bullet in your gun, it may, I don't know, like maybe you have a good relationship with them and they'll come back. But I wouldn't want to risk the money not being there. I wouldn't want to risk the team not coming back together. It's here now. Bird in the hand is worth two in the bush kind of thing. I've spent too much of my life chasing the birds in the bush. In this situation, I'm taking the one in the hand. Christina Alba, rent and utilities are also forgiven. I think you were answering that for somebody. Thank you. How long do I continue to pay them? I forget what your question was. Let me see if I can find it real quick. How long do I continue to pay them? I have two. Oh, you were the one with Mexico. So you would pay them for this. This money is good for 8 weeks. So you would pay them for the 8 weeks. Let me get back here. And then again, maybe they'll re-up this for businesses. Is it first come first serve? I think I got that one. Got that one. Oh, there we go. All right. Joanne Therio, maybe. Our local banks knew nothing. I called too. I called my banker and I was telling him about it on Thursday, and he still didn't really know much on Friday. So I just don't think that they have any direction yet. Like, I can promise you that your local banker hasn't read the bill. The most they may have done is like read some blog post that summarizes it. But even those are real, like, high level type of stuff. So yeah, I don't think that they'll know much until Wednesday of next week, but I would call on Monday for sure if you haven't already. Hello, Cheryl. Emily Fortish-Puente, who's Wells Fargo, so it's a big bank with a local branch. Wells Fargo will for sure be an SBA lender. Like, I have part of my SBA loan is with Wells Fargo. Jody, same here, hoping we will hear about it very soon. Again, don't worry about the fact that your banks don't know anything about it yet, just because they just passed it on Friday. And so the SBA is probably getting all the information to get out to the banks this weekend, and I would guess they'll probably know more Monday or Tuesday. I called mine. The business banker was clueless. Yeah. My bank is starting with a phone application, and then I'll go through the drive-through for signing. That sounds about right. So again, you want to get that Friday. You want to get that Friday appointment as much as you can if you've got a personal banker. So if it's male and female co-owner, will that get more priority as well? I think anything that has like a female ownership will probably get priority. Let's see, Kirk. 𝗵𝘆𝘀. I have a bankruptcy from 10 years ago, post 2008 fiasco, lost everything, had an SBA loan in that bankruptcy. Does that disqualify me? That does not disqualify you from this program, the Paycheck Protection Program, but it may from the disaster loans. But even those, I think you still got a shot. So I wouldn't, I'd apply for this one first, but then I would do the disaster loans after that if you need that. Hello, Sonia. If the office regularly contributes to IRAs versus SEP policies, does their PPP loan include that as payroll? I think it does. That's I don't know. I don't do retirement in my businesses, so I don't know anything about like IRA or SEP differences. So I would guess that anything that you paid in retirement, just the point with this is to get approved for as much as possible. So bring in whatever you've got. Anything that you've spent money on for your employees, benefit-wise or pay-wise, or leave, you want to make sure that that money is in there. Flora, you're welcome. Nick Karas, seen you on a lot of Facebook Lives. What's up? Christina Alba, so you know how personal credit will be factored into eligibility for the 𝘰𝗿𝗍𝗃. I don't, but like I said, I think it'll be much relaxed from what it normally is. Rob Vasquez, my boy, happy healthy. You're welcome. Cindy, you're welcome. Flora Hyacinth, can we do an 𝘰𝗿𝗍𝗃 as well as the economic disaster loan? That's the same thing, but you can. Like I said, I'm going to double check into this to make sure that you can do both the Paycheck Protection Program and the 𝘰𝗿𝗍𝗃, which is the disaster loan. But I'm like 99% sure that you can. Tabor, gotcha. Thanks for the clarification. No problem. Christian Alba. Oh, so I mean, how will our personal credit score affect eligibility for score loans? I don't know what score loans are, but again, like the credit scores, anything other than the Paycheck Protection Program, your credit score will probably be a factor. But those are like actual loans that they're hoping that you pay back. This is not that. This is included distributions. I think I answered that for you, Rob. Nancy Cooper. What if we already applied for SBA loan online? Do we reapply because I don't see the link to check my status anymore? So the SBA loan that you probably applied for is the disaster loan. It's going to be a separate thing. You're going to do it through your local bank. So call your local bank on Monday. Katie, you have so many LLC questions and I don't have any answers for you. But I love you for being on here. Thanks a lot. Sarah Vadan, if we get the PPP loan through our Cairo office, but we own our building through, you must be friends with Katie with all your LLCs, but we own our building through a separate real estate LLC that we set up. That doesn't have payroll because its only function is to collect rent from the Cairo office. Can we use the PPP loan to pay rent to the real estate company if we've had a legal lease agreement set up from the start? Yes. Yeah, so don't worry about, like, you're not going to qualify for any money on the real estate LLC. You'll just focus all your attention on the Cairo office, and then you'll use whatever money is left. Because remember, you're only gonna even if you keep 100% of your staff at 100% payroll, you're only gonna use up like 1.9 of the 2.5 times your normal payroll or your average monthly payroll. That 0.6 that's left over, you'll be able to cut a check to the LLC, because it doesn't matter that you own the LLC that owns the building. Like if I own my building, but like if I had a lease agreement, somebody would own the building. I would have the lease agreement with that person or that company. So they don't care that it's like you on the other side of the LLC. So yes, you'll be able to use that. The rent is one of the qualifying categories, but then to whoever owns your mortgage on your building, that's who. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, yeah, because you would get. This might actually work out pretty well for you guys. So the way I understand it is, you would rent. You can write the whole rent check, right? So you just write the rent check to the LLC that owns the building. If you own the building through the company, you'd only be able to pay the interest, not the principal. So this allows you to write the rent check, I would guess, and then I would contact the bank and ask if you can go interest only for the next 90 days, which would probably be less than what you're going to write the check for the rent. So you could actually come out a little bit ahead on that without it being like skeezy. Katie, so if rent not paid, then the landlord goes to a loss. I think we answered that. Nick Karas, realistically, when do you think our personal biz bankers actually know how to do all of this? As of yesterday, my Fargo guy didn't have a clue. Thanks, Doc. I think that, like I said, Wednesday of next week, kind of at the latest, I would guess, but possibly Monday. Like if they get direction from the SBA over the weekend, I would guess they're going to hop to it. Because remember, they've got they have the incentive to help you with this because they get 5% of the loan as the fee. So, that's another thing. Actually, let me turn on my lights real quick. That's the other thing is, do not pay anybody. There's so many of these, like they've been posting like underneath my videos and I've had to like block them and delete them. Don't pay anybody for this application process. Normally when you get an SBA loan, it is a pain in the ass and you've got to like pay somebody to help you with it. With this one, I think it's going to be pretty simple. You just go to the local bank. They'll have it kind of streamlined, I would guess, and it won't be something that you need help with, that you need to pay someone. You might need help from like the banker, but they get paid through the SBA. And the law specifically says that they cannot collect any fee beyond that %. So don't let the bank charge you any fees. Don't pay anybody to do this application process for you. Don't do any of that. Now for the disaster loans, if that application process is more complicated, maybe, but even that I doubt is very complicated, not like a normal SBA loan. That you probably have either team members that have a lot of time on their hands or you have a lot of time on your hands. So I would just do it yourself. Nick, you rock. Thanks, Sarah. You rock too. Tell Alex hello. Let's see. Lauren Shelton, we don't cover our utilities on a month-to-month basis. Our landlord pays them and then splits them among the tenants 2 times a year. How would that qualify for the relief? So let's see. We don't cover our utilities on a month-to-month basis. Our landlord pays them. So the landlord pays them every month and then splits them among the tenants 2 times per year. How would that qualify? So you do one lump sum payment of the utilities. So you do like 6 months of utilities in one payment. I mean, what would be pretty sweet is if you, and again, like people should be, like humanity should be standing up right now. We should all be like kind to one another. And the landlord, if you reached out to him and like, hey, I know we do this in July instead of April, but explain this thing to him, be like, our utilities would be a covered expense. Could you give us our fee? Because it doesn't say like utilities for these 8 weeks. It says utilities. So if you paid for 6 months of utilities with this money, I don't think it's going to make any difference to them in terms of the forgiveness side of it. You want to oh, I'm sorry, those would not qualify to get you. That's not a part of payroll costs, so never mind. So I think if you, what I would say to the landlord is either A, charge us the twice per month, and I would explain to your other tenants like why this is a good deal for them, and I would ask the landlord if he could just charge you now for it, or maybe he could split it up into 4 payments this year instead of 2. I mean, 2 times a year is just some arbitrary thing that he came up with to make his life easier. I think he could probably help you out a little bit. So I'd talk to the landlord about that. But if it were me, I would try to pay one of the 2 times with any leftover money if possible. So, but if that's too much, I would maybe like try to break it into like, ask him if he could do like 4 this year. Because I would guess you haven't paid yet this year for one of the 2 times. Kaylee Gillen, I don't know if you answered this, joined in late, but is the Paycheck Protections included in the disaster loan? It's a different program. Yeah, so you'll contact your, it's actually through a 7A loan, which is a different part of the SBA than the disaster loans. Heather Strenkowski, what factors would lead to an office being denied this SBA assistance? If you were not in business on 2/15/2020, or if you were not, or if you were not paying yourself or anyone else through a business 2/15/2020. So those are the only 2 requirements for the Paycheck Protection Program. Heather Den Morris, what if I put a new employee on payroll as of 3/15? I don't think that it's going to matter as of 3/15. So just like recently. Well, that'll be that. I guess that would be technically counted into your application for the last 12 months. But remember, they're only going to use your last 12 months of payroll to decide what your monthly average is, and then they're multiplying that by 2.5. That gives you the amount that you qualify for, and then what you do with that money, I think, is kind of up to you. If you use non-covered categories, it's just going to turn into a loan. If you fire half your staff and you use it to pay half your staff, it's only going to get 50% forgiven. So it's all a matter of like whatever you were doing before the loan, they just want you to keep those people at the pay that they had. Like my girlfriend is an attorney and she had hired a paralegal, and she was supposed to start probably around that same time, but all this stuff started happening like when she was supposed to start. And luckily she was able to get back on. She had put in her 2 weeks notice, but she was able to get back with her other companies. So they just decided to delay it until after all this was done. Michael, yes, thank you so much. You're welcome. Flora Hyacinth, just called my bank to try and make an appointment for next Friday and was told that all applications have to be done through SBA. That may or may not be true. They just might not know what they're talking about right now, especially if you called on a Saturday and talked to just like a personal banker or like the commercial lenders. Well, I'm gonna talk to my my banker when sometime this weekend and see if I can't do like an interview with him to see what he's being told, because he's actually like the head of the commercial lending department at my bank. 𝗲𝗂𝗄𝗎, UTSA up in this. So just go to our business bank. Yeah, wherever you do either your business loans, if you have a relationship with a banker, or if you just have a business checking, just go to wherever you do your business checking first. And then after that, you may have to go to a different bank if they don't do it. But it's gonna be an income source. So I think they're gonna allow any FDIC insured financial institutions to do it. Paula Ruffin, did you say apply for PPP first, then SBA? I already submitted my preliminary app for SBA, but can't get back in. So you could apply for both of them. I just think that the Paycheck Protection Program is what you want to do ASAP, because that is the one that gets forgiven. So that I would recommend just doing that. If you've already submitted the application for the disaster loan, then I think you're okay. My boy Stephen Franson, we had a good call a couple days ago about this. Lynn Sowers, I didn't know how to reply up above. I hope I answered that already. Sarah Kirsch, I pay my doctors a percentage of their collections, but since there is no money coming in, how do I decide how to pay them? I would probably recommend I'd probably work something out with them. So I pay one of my doctors on a percentage, and so he makes over $100,000. In 2019, he made over $100,000. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically say like, hey, you qualify up to 100. Is it okay if I pay you the 100, which I'm sure he's going to be fine with. So same with theirs, like whatever they normally make, as long as it's under 100. Like say one makes 78. They made 78 last year. The other one made 72.5. I'd pay the 178 and the 172.5. Remember, doctors are a little bit. I'm sympathetic to them for sure, but especially if somebody's at like $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year, I think you just need to have a conversation, because you have a little bit of wiggle room on payroll. You can take your payroll down to 75% total. So maybe your doctors can cut back a little bit, especially if you're cutting back. I would not ask them to do anything that you're not doing, like be a leader, but you want to make sure that this money is as useful to the business that they're a part of. And with associates, like they just have a different, I think they have a different responsibility to the practice as a whole versus like a CA who it's like, I'm just worried right now about them being able to not be nervous. Like I'm not nervous about this because I can control my financial destiny. Employees though are probably, feeling pretty uncertain about things. So you want to make sure that you're being a good example and you're being upfront and talking to them. But the ones that make the most, I think, should be able to cut back a little bit. But if somebody's got 5 kids and another guy is single and driving a Ferrari, maybe take all of that into consideration. So my boy Robert Silverman, if you guys I talked a little bit earlier about the podcast. I did a podcast interview with Robert Silverman early on. I kind of shifted the podcast to all things from marketing and content to COVID-19 survival ideas. And I had Dr. Silverman on last week, I think early last week. He was one of the first interviews that I did, and it was just a really good interview on what you can be doing proactively to support your health and your immunity. And also, I think we dove into, what if somebody actually tests positive? What's going to be the best things nutritionally, supplementally, that can be done to keep it from, cascading into some of these more severe effects. So I would recommend, I did one with him, and I also did one with 𝗀𝗃𝗃 that was really good on the nutritional side of it. So I'd recommend watching both of those. What up, David Tucker, Alex Duff, all my UAC guys are in here. Devin Luzode, will it cover costs for processing payroll fees? Either way, I should probably just bring that amount to the bank. Yes, I would just bring it to the bank, but I would guess, I think anything included in payroll is probably going to be covered, like if you use a company or something. But basically, here's the way to think about it. If they use it to qualify you for an amount, they'll probably allow you to get forgiveness from it on the back end of it. So that would be my recommendation there. Robert Tieperman, and if we did, do we need to apply for two separate loans, once for EIDL loan and separate for payroll? I think so. I think this is going to be it's a different program. So I would, I think it's going to be a different process, because the requirements for this are that you were in business on 215 and that you were paying yourself or somebody else before 215. And the ones for the EIDL are different. They're more stringent. Natalie, FYI, I just spoke to my local SBA approved banker here in Boulder, and she said they just got news yesterday. She is calling me tomorrow to get things started, but said it will take them until, man, it's like I can call this stuff. I feel really proud of myself. She'll probably tell you on Wednesday that they're going to get the money on Friday, just like I've been saying. Steve Lembo, been supporting all the Facebook Lives. Appreciate it, brother. Crystal Brown, thank you for all this valuable info. Your Facebook Lives have made this much easier to navigate already. That is the point. I hope that I am not, I don't have a business on helping people through SBA process. So just been trying to help out my chiropractic brothers and sisters. Daniel Landon Hubble, so I've thought about this while listening, and here's my conundrum. I haven't let my staff go, but the hours were significantly reduced due to people not coming to see my office, and I'm still open. I asked them to apply for unemployment because I wasn't aware of this program as of yet. If, and I mean if, I can retroactively pay from 2/15/2020, then I'm still looking at having to let them go and do unemployment anyway in 2 weeks anyway. 2/15, 4/15. Yeah, I mean, that's true. Like if you need to get reimbursed for that. But my thing is I would rather, because it's not like I don't think they're going to have to, did you say that I asked them to apply? Yeah, the unemployment stuff I think is going to be a little bit tricky, because they don't want them on unemployment, but if somebody's already gotten unemployment money, I don't think they're going to make them pay it back. So for those people, maybe you only make it retroactive to when you took over paying them again. Each of these unemployment situations, those are the ones that I think are a little bit tricky. And I don't even think they really know what exactly they're going to do with it right now. But I do know that they want you to bring them back onto your payroll and pay them what they were making before. So if you don't need to repay yourself for what you did back, just because you can go back retroactively doesn't mean you have to. What I'm going to do is, because I was still paying them, this payroll Friday, some of them were still working the second week of that payroll. The first week, everybody was working. So that one I don't have any issue with. The next one, nobody's working right now, except for my office manager and my main associate are going in and kind of doing some daily stuff. But nobody's really doing much of anything. So I wanted to wait to see what was going to shake out with this before making any decisions. And so for me, I'm going to use this money for next payroll. So I may even wait to apply for it to maybe, if I can time it right, to just maybe a week before the next payroll is due, because I still think there'll be plenty of money then. But actually, no, I just told you not to do that. So never mind. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get it as soon as I can. Yes, you would have it from 2/15 to 4/15, and then they'd have to go back on unemployment. So that would be, you got to decide what's going to be the best for you. Let's see, my boy Johnny Reuter. If you do not, is it Reuter? I always forget. congratulations on graduating from Life University. If you guys don't watch, or if you guys need to make sure that you're listening to the legendary chiropractor. If you're a young doctor, Johnny gives a ton of great information, interviews a lot of smart people such as myself, and I think that that he is a star in this profession. So be sure to kind of keep up with him. Life University graduated yesterday digitally, I believe, and Johnny was one of those. So congratulations, buddy. Jeff McIntyre, if we make it through the process and the loan is forgiven, will the forgiven amount be taxed as income? No, it will not. It specifically says that. Some of the other videos mentioned, oh man, look at Daniel Landon Hubble coming up with, watch the videos first before asking the questions. Good work. Dr. Nick has previously recorded video on how to, man, everybody's watching the videos. Good job, guys. I use the verbiage word for word and put in an email to get an appointment. Good work, Nicole. Flora Hyacinth spoke to the bank manager. Okay. PPP, Paycheck Protection Program. Jan Kasprowitz and Flora Nicole Shimke. Thank you. All right, guys. I think we made it through all the questions that I have right now. Is there anything else that I can help anybody with? I feel like we covered a lot of stuff. I don't know if I can think of anything. One thing that I will say is if you have an SBA loan, one of the things in the bill is that the SBA itself will pay 6 months of your SBA loan, interest, principal, and fees. So if you have an SBA loan, reach out to whoever you get your SBA loan through or your banker, because like I got an SBA loan for my building, and then they split the like my bank kept 50%, they sold off 40%, and then I had 10% down. The 40% went to Wells Fargo, the 50% stayed at my local bank, and I would assume that still counts as a SBA loan, but potentially only the 40% that got sold to Wells Fargo counts. But you want to find out because the SBA, it's part of this bill, they like allocated money to pay for the SBA loans that are current and active for 6 months for this. So that's pretty good. Renee Foster, next update. I'll probably be like, as I learn anything new, especially about the like application process, like I'll just be putting out videos, and if I need to do, I mean, this seemed like this was pretty popular. So if you guys want me to do another Q&A, I can do that. And if you guys have questions that pop up, you can put them in the comments below, like the videos that I've made, and I can answer them there. I'd rather not get the personal, like the direct messages, because then it's like only you get the answer instead of, and a lot of the questions that people direct message me about, because I'm running ads right now for the videos, like some of the videos that I've done, I'm pushing those out so more people can see them and learn from them. And those ads have like a send message button. So they're sending me a lot of messages of questions that have already been answered. So if you guys are hearing this, just watch a lot of the videos. This weekend, I'll probably go through, I actually moved into our new condo last week. So my house still looks like a tornado hit it. So I'm trying to like get that this weekend, but I'll try to like find some answers for some of these questions I wrote down and shoot some videos. If you guys have anything, let me know. Andrew Torchio, you're amazing. Thank you so much. No, you're amazing, Andrew. Paula Ruffin, thank you so much. You're welcome. Joining late, does all your info hold true in California? It's federal, correct? Yes, it's federal. Exactly what we did with our SBA loan for building, so thanks for that tidbit. Yeah, definitely looking into that, especially if your building is through the SBA. So it's weird though with the mortgages, because it's like they do them and then they sell them off, but they're still backed by the SBA. Like that's why the bank makes the loans, is because I think they only guarantee 90%. That's why you have to put 10% down. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, talk to whoever you do with. That's why you stay till the end, Sarah, because you get all the info. I'll give you another one. If you're still open, I did this on a podcast or an interview with Genesis Software, and if you're still open, three things that you could try to be bringing in more money now or more patients now is if you're open for personal injury, if you do any personal injury, and this is only if you do personal injury, but if you do personal injury, right now, the people that have been in accidents, what are they looking to do? They are looking to settle. So any of those old PI cases, I would be on top of those attorneys, make sure that they are not settling stuff without, like, there's some weird stuff going on out there in the world. So we don't want our liens to not be held up. So I'd be talking to those attorneys, especially with stuff that was maybe close to settling, or maybe they were thinking about going to court, but they weren't sure. Those people are going to be wanting to settle right now because they want money in their pocket. So I would be talking to the attorneys about cutting some deals to try to get some money in. Number two is when you're talking to these attorneys, a lot of attorneys that work maybe with other chiropractors or medical facilities or PTs, if what the attorneys are worried about right now is that their cases are going to go down in value if people don't continue their care. So if you're doing personal injury and you're still open, I'd be reaching out to those personal injury attorneys and saying, hey, we're open. We can manage those cases until those people come back and are opened up again. And then you might be able to, start a new relationship with the PI attorney because you might be saving their bacon on that one. So that's another way to get people through the door. And then third is make sure that you're reaching out to your medical doctors and saying hey, listen, we're open. We're taking musculoskeletal conditions. So any low back pain, headache, anything to keep people out of the waiting rooms, out of the emergency rooms, out of the urgent care. That's a big one. And then create content. This has been a masterclass in why you create content for your whoever your target market is. I have a content marketing agency, Leverage Media, that is a marketing agency for chiropractors. My ideal clients are chiropractors that own their own businesses. So this was just and I am obsessed with politics and read too much Twitter. So this thing kind of fell out of the sky, and I realized after I made a couple of videos how hungry people were for this information. So I've just been doing this for I got a lot of stuff that I need to be doing right now for my other businesses, but I've been spending half of the day creating this content because this is what my ideal client wants. This is the information they want. So think about how you can be creating content for your ideal patient. How can you be communicating to them right now? They're hungry for information of how to be healthier. We are looking at what could be a golden age for chiropractic when we come out on the other side of this, because if we start positioning ourselves as the chiropractic lifestyle is the lifestyle that you need to protect yourself from not only this, but also whatever else is going to come in the future. The people that are the most at risk are the ones with comorbidities. If you've got a comorbidity, you better figure that shit out. And if you are the person who's screaming that from the mountaintops, they're going to be attracted to you, right? I'm not doing this to get Leverage Media clients. I'm doing this to help people, but this is building up a lot of goodwill. A lot of people know that I exist now that didn't know I exist before. So use this as an example of how could you be servicing your ideal patients right now? How could you be servicing the people that are sitting at home, that are scared, that aren't sure what to do, not sure what to believe? Be a beacon of light, be hopeful, and help them with the things that they need help with right now. Let's see. Sonia, great info. Thank you. You're welcome. Sarah Vidan, yep, doing that for PI2. I'll be here until the end with you. Sarah's husband, Alex Vidan, if you guys know who he is, he's a perfect example. Getting on the news, being in front of people. If you want to find out how to get on the news, talk to him about Tick TV. We work together on that, and it's this is the time for us to be getting our information out there and to be helping as many people as possible. So. I'm going to give this another minute or so. So if anybody has any questions, we're at 97 comments. I feel like we should be able to get to 100. So if anybody has any other questions, now would be the time. My girlfriend wants me to help unpack, so I know that she is waiting patiently. All right, guys, I'm going to hop off. If you guys have any other questions, you can just leave. I get notifications whenever questions come through on this stuff. So just leave the question in the comments below, and I'll answer them as quickly as I can. So love you guys. Hope you are staying safe and healthy and profitable. And again, take advantage of this stuff. Get with your banks. I'll talk to you guys later.